Dan and Corey here, welcoming you into Libservative.
The great fundamental issue now before our people. We, the people, cannot turn back.
Yeah, welcome in to another edition of Libservative. He's Corey Walsh.
He is Dan Griffin, and we're here.
We almost had another scare.
Jesus.
Started a recording.
Sorry about starting 13 minutes late, kids. I know everyone was on the edge of their seat going, are Dan and Corey coming? Where are they?
Had a few technical difficulties recording. It's our off day. That's why it's not normally. We don't normally record on a Wednesday, and here we are. And as soon as we start the show, my dogs fucking start barking. So
was it DoorDash?
I don't know. My fiance is going to be home any minute, so it might be her just pulling in the driveway. But it is what it is. They're up there barking, so you're going to have to just put up with it. Don't care. We do these.
I can't even hear
it. Yeah, we have an action-packed show. Yeah, you heard the bark. We have an action-packed show for you today. We asked some listener questions. Wanted to hear from you folks what you wanted us to talk about. We're going to get to a few of those here this evening. Corey's pouring a drink, and I know.
Can you tell? Can you tell that's what I'm doing?
I need a few more of what you're having because I have a new appreciation for plumbers after today, Corey.
That's what you were saying.
I absolutely wanted to declare October 5th Plumber Appreciation Day, but then I looked it up and I found out there actually really already is a Plumber Appreciation Day. It happens to be April 25th. So next April, please be sure to give your plumber a hug, because I, for the first time in my life, had to snake a drain behind the garbage disposal. And the next time your plumber comes to you and gives you a quote or tells you what the bill is, just fucking pay it, because they earned it. They deserve it. This is a profession in which people deal with literal shit.
Literal shit. They have a shitty job.
And sewage. They've earned every dime that they're asking for. It's disgusting. It's the worst job ever. And they just deserve it. So shouts out to my plumbers out there. I appreciate you and I love you. And I want to give all of you a virtual hug if you're out there listening. In fact, I'm going to make a declaration right now. The first little piece of merch that we create, if you're a plumber, let us know. You're getting the first Libservative t-shirt. You're getting you're just now my favorite people.
You sound a little traumatized, Dan, from having to stick your snake in a hole.
Dude, there was sewage. There's literal sewage on my kitchen floor. I mean, it's just, I probably still stink, honestly. Like, it's
Thank God this is remote.
It's a good thing we're not in the same room. Exactly. Because I look like I'm put together, but I know I reek, because I had to get, as soon as I was done with that, I had to get down here and do some show prep with you. So shouts out to the plumbers. Plumbers, we love you. Please stick around.
Yeah, let me give our plug real quick, and then I'll give you a little story about a garbage disposal of my own real fast. The Libservative Podcast is found on all social media and podcast platforms. Our website is podpage.com/Libservative. We can be found at Libservative on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch, Instagram and Twitter at LibservativePod. And if you can find our transcripts, and you can find our transcripts at libservativepodcast.wordpress.com. Our TikTok videos can be found at Libservative Podcast, and you can reach out directly at libservativepod@gmail.com. Subscribe today and give us a rating. So I also have an appreciation for plumbers, because there was a time when I was doing side jobs to make ends meet, and one of the jobs was trying to get someone's garbage disposal to work. And I ended up being in the same position you were, of having to deal with a garbage disposal, because I thought I'll just use some of this Drano. And what it did was literally burn a hole through their garbage disposal.
Can't do that. That's why I had to get the snake out. You can't. Yeah, not supposed to put chemicals in the.
Well, now I know that.
I
didn't know that. I was just like, oh, guys, your garbage disposal's leaking. I don't know what to tell you. You're gonna need a new one.
That's why I was gonna say, if the next time you're gonna bitch about a plumber's price, snake your own drains, and tell me that they don't deserve every dime that they ask for.
Right. So what's new, Dan? What you consuming? What you drinking? What you listening to? What you watching?
I'm probably already half in the bag after my sewage experience today, but I'm drinking a Michiganders will know this quite well. I don't know how far outside of Michigan Bell's Brewery goes. I'm assuming it's decently throughout the Midwest, but I'm drinking a Michigan classic, just a Two-Hearted Ale.
Nice. Is that the lighthearted one or
No, I didn't fuck
the
around.
double-hearted?
No, just I went with the regular Two-Hearted. The
Okay.
El Clasico.
Not as classic as my champagne and beers name.
That's true.
And then are we doing the drink if we swear tonight?
Then I'm probably on like 6 or 7 now.
Oh, we didn't make the rules yet, but
whatever. I just took down basically a whole can.
Makes it fun, I suppose.
I'm pretty much half in the bag, so who gives a shit? Oh, there's another one.
Take a sip.
No, I'm just doing it on purpose.
What you watching? I know. Did you finish up the Holocaust thing?
I have not, but I started something. I'm one of those people that like starts like 8 shows at the same time and then like struggles to finish all of them. But I did finish up as a sports fan. I did finish up the Captain, which is the Derek Jeter documentary series on ESPN Plus, and that's interesting for me because while baseball is not like my favorite sport, in fact, of all of the 4 major sports, it's probably my least favorite, but I have like this weird affinity for baseball history. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because, it's considered
America's pastime.
It's America's pastime. And there's all these like great old timey stories about baseball. Like I like reading baseball history books, especially about particular players, and things like that. And so I watched this documentary series about Derek Jeter. It's called The Captain, and that one's even interesting for me because even not being the biggest baseball fan in the world, as a Detroiter, I especially hate the New York Yankees, and I fell in love with the Boston Red Sox in the late 90s before they had won that original title, just because I hate the Yankees, and so I always hated Derek Jeter. But always had massive amounts of respect for him. And he's just one of those like Michael Jordan type athletes that are just mentally disabled in a way that is so great to where their will to win and their will to work hard is just, it's like superhuman.
Loves baseball.
And it's like, you know what I'm talking about? Like the Michael Jordan syndrome where like you're just programmed to do whatever it takes to win. It's just such a rare human being. It's such a rare trait. And it's really interesting hearing it from the people who actually lived that life. So I recommend it, particularly if you're a baseball fan, or even if you're not, if you're one of those people that just appreciates greatness. The Captain on ESPN Plus, the Derek Jeter documentary series, is pretty good.
I might have to check it out. I'm not a big fan. Like I enjoy playing baseball, watching it. It's one of those sports that I only watch it when it's a game where I know it's important. Or if it's like a World Series game.
Playoffs are about to start here.
Are the Tigers in it?
No.
So then there's no emotional connection for me. I might watch the final game.
Your Detroit Tigers, though, did win, like, I can't even remember what the number was, like 12 out of 14 to end the season. And they finished second to last place in the division, I believe.
Well, look at that.
Because of that.
Plenty of room for improvement.
Yeah.
You can't go anywhere but up from here, Dan.
They said that last year, too.
And they went up.
Yeah, it took them to the ass end of the season, but you are correct, Corey Walsh.
So I've been, what I've been listening to is Tyler Childers, who's a huge like country. It's so dumb, but that's a whole different thing of the country and Western Americana brand that's been branched off of country music, where he sounds more traditionally country, but now they call it something different. Tyler Childers just dropped a new Badass album. Really, really traditional country music, and if that's your thing, I encourage you to listen to it. He is a fucking rock star. Damn it, darn it, gosh darn it, got a drink. And then I just started the Evolution of Hip Hop documentary on Netflix, which so far is phenomenal. It's just talking about how hip hop has navigated and how the culture has influenced it and vice versa, and how it's influenced the culture. And it talks about the different influence of local communities. Like right now I'm listening to how NOLA, New Orleans, has had such an effect on hip hop music and like the bounce bounce hip hop, where it's like the really like upbeat, like really, really wild type hip hop music. And then like a part of the genres of that is originated in New Orleans. So if you like hip hop, I encourage that. If you like country, the Tyler Childers album. And then other than that, just been discing. I went and disced Newego, disc golf, not to disparage the disc golfers.
Or the ball golfers.
Or the ball golfers, yeah. Newego disc golf course. If you live in Michigan and you're interested in disc golfing at all, Newego disc golf course at Newego State Park, the Bluffs. Jesus, it was probably one of the most beautiful courses I ever played.
Should we get to
and with that,
listener picks? So you wanted to start with, hang on, I'm on the wrong page of my notes. That's the kind of a day it's been. You wanted to talk about Evan's comments from Facebook.
He didn't really all over your keyboard.
Evan didn't really give us a topic to talk about. But you wanted to, I hope you have it pulled up because I don't. You wanted to reference our 4th of July episode about Roe v. Wade.
Yeah, I'm looking for that.
One of us should have.
We should have
had it in front of us. It's just been one of those days.
Stall. No dead air. And
I'm covered in shit. Literal shit.
This would have been way cooler if it popped up when I did that like that, but it didn't because Facebook is being fucking ridiculous. All right, so we can start off with Evan. So Evan said when I made a post, I said, "Hey everyone, quick question: what do you want to hear us talk about in this week's episode?" And he said, I don't know. I mean, when you are blue and you have to go along with every messed up thing the blue is for, same as red. I just think we have to have an open discussion. Besides that, I'm personally anti-war, and I think the military-industrial complex has way too much power. But I'm open to discussion on abortion and civil rights. I kind of go back and forth on those issues. So first thing I want to say is
that Evan sounds like a human being.
And yeah, and he sees the nuance in it. So it's like, I'd like to say welcome home. And that's what we do here on the show. I want to reference that, like for the Roe v. Wade and abortion and stuff like that, we dive deep into the July 4th episode regarding Roe v. Wade, and it was talking about Roe overturned. And then as for civil rights, we do have a pretty good interview with Tristan, and it was the episode we actually dropped 2 weeks ago when we missed a day. So if you want to hear us talk a little bit about getting into the weeds on that stuff, those are the episodes. The military-industrial complex absolutely is way too big, and we 100% agree. And
I think Evan's comment though is like I think that's the reason it was good for us to start off with this, because
it's basically the premise of the show.
It's the absolute essence of our show, right? It's this idea that even though you may consider yourself left or liberal or right or conservative, you don't have to like. You don't have to cultish, be so binary, right?
Yeah.
Like you can be pro-choice and pro-Second Amendment at the same time and not have to apologize for it. Or at least you shouldn't have to apologize for it. Because
absolutely.
Because if you say that you're pro-choice and pro-Second Amendment at the same time, you're going to have both sides shitting on you.
Isn't that frustrating that like in any topic, if you don't have a definitive stance on one side or the other, and then you just get attacked from both sides. But it's like, well, how can you just think that? And like you get the same type of response from both sides. We go, well, there's some nuance to this.
How can you be pro-gun and pro-choice? Because the two things have nothing fucking to do with each other. They're absolutely separate matters, and you have the ability to make decisions on your opinion on each one separately, not because your team or whatever team you claim or tries to claim you says that you need to do. So we appreciate the comment, Evan. That's essentially the essence of our show. So that's
yes, I definitely wanted to read that because like the way he's saying, I go back and forth. It's like, oh, well, welcome to the show. So do we.
Oh, you mean you think you actually use your brain? That's interesting. People.
And then so we had two comments that were similar. One from Michael Collins. He said deadly threats to McConnell. And then Pickering Mike said Trump's comments on Junk Social about bitch McConnell and his Asian wife. I think I
don't know where that second one comes from. Is that like a pro-Trump person that doesn't like McConnell now because Trump
No,
shit.
so this is what Trump said. Is McConnell approving all of these trillions of dollars worth of Democrat-sponsored bills without even the slightest bit of negotiation because he hates Donald J. Trump and he knows I am strongly opposed to them? Or is he doing it because he believes in the fake and highly destructive Green New Deal and is willing to take the country down with him? In any event, either reason is unacceptable. He has a death wish.
So,
Must immediately seek help and advice from his China-loving wife, Coco Chow.
so Jesus Christ. So
welcome back to 2017, Dan.
that's the first time I had heard that. I'd actually heard what Trump said. And the first thing that jumped out to me was how did
he make it about him?
No, not just that, but that's the first thing he mentioned was about how is this about Donald Trump, which is the biggest issue that I have, and I think you also have about Donald Trump.
Is he makes everything fucking
first
about
and
him.
foremost, it's about Donald Trump. Like, even when you mention the good things,
Mitch McConnell disagrees with me. It's some sort of tactic to take me down.
Exactly. So it's this whole
childish.
God damn it! You ruined my train of thought, Corey. But either way, it's always about how does it affect Trump first. Oh, what I was going to say was even like the good things that you mentioned about Trump, with like whatever. If you want to do the shallow economic thing about, hey, the stock market was great because that's like first grade economics while Trump was president, or you want to talk about like no new wars. When Trump talks about these things, the first thing he mentions is himself, right? It's like the narcissism of this man is palpable. It's real. And so when we shit on Trump, that's the first thing I think we both shit on.
Narcissism,
as far as like the
I miss his tweets, Dan. That was great. This is a great one.
Deadly threats or whatever. I don't think it was really a threat to Mitch McConnell. I'm like,
he said he must
defend Donald Trump, but yeah.
So what it reminded me of is who was it? Was it Caesar? I forget who it was in Rome, and he goes, "Will someone rid me of these meddlesome priests?"
Mm.
Like saying, "Boy, I sure wish this guy wasn't in my hair," and not necessarily saying, "I sure wish someone would just get rid of this." So, I mean, I get it. Like it is like a nuanced thing. And we're talking about the guy who has been shrouded in this since January 6th. So I can see people saying, well, here he goes again. And he might be right. He might be trying to like code some things in that. But if nothing happens, these words don't mean anything.
But isn't it also like the Jimmy Dore phrase of like Trump accidentally telling the truth?
No, because
like Mitch McConnell does definitely suck. Like
he does suck,
and we know this.
He is in bed with a bunch of lobbyists and stuff from foreign countries, just like the rest of them are. He's not unique, Most of the Republican and Democratic Party both are, as evidenced by how much dark money gets put into them, and everyone likes to talk about the Republicans, even though more dark money goes to the Democrats. It's just interesting to me that as he is slandering Mitch McConnell and implying that he is getting money from these other countries and talking all this shit about him and his wife, at the same time, he is suing CNN for defamation.
Very good. Very good.
Isn't that hilarious? Isn't that funny?
Yes.
Like, he can slander people.
Yes.
He can slander people. But if anyone even tarnishes his name. I used to work at a brewery. We both know this. We had a shirt that just said "Make cider great again" with a little yellow toupee on it. And the company got a cease and desist letter from Trump's campaign. Like, he's so touchy and so, you can't say anything about me. This is defamation. This is slander. But he's allowed to slander and just defame anybody he wants to. And it just goes to show you of how much of what's good for me is bad for you, of how much of a double standard he was.
Good for me, not good for thee, or good for thee, not good for me.
Yeah,
whatever
good for me,
phrase
not good for
is.
thee. Yeah. And so that's basically my take on that. And it's just, I think it's really funny that the guy, in one side of his mouth, he's saying, "Oh, no, slander is bad. You can't do this." And the other side of his mouth, he's like, "Yeah, that guy, he's just,
like he
basically
basically just says Mitch McConnell's wife is like a a Chinese spy or something.
Spy or something like that. Yeah, with no evidence whatsoever, just because she's Chinese.
Yeah, it's
That's
just
borderline racist, Trump. You know, you got to be careful.
it's just like this is what drives me nuts about the Trump people. It's like, yes,
Yeah.
you can make these claims of like no new wars and what have you, and like I agree with you, like, but was it coincidental or was it real? I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
that's
Anyway.
my take on that one. I appreciate the comments, guys. Again, that's from Michael Collins and Pickering Mike. I want to do Michelle's last. She
What
said
about
she wants
Steve
to
the
do
Serb?
Steve
He's
the
been on
Serb.
the
So
show.
Steve the Serb said MTG's irresponsible comments that Democrats are supposedly killing Republicans.
MTG meaning Marjorie Taylor Green. Do you
About
have
old Marge?
and my girl? That's my girl Marge.
You know she's about to be single, Dan.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, she's not attractive and she's a disgusting person. But I do enjoy talking about Marge.
So I know she said it at Macomb Community College here in our backyard.
That's right. At the Trump rally.
I don't have the video, but I'm sure I get the gist of it of her saying just, and these Democrats are trying to kill Republicans all the time. You know what I mean? Like that same blanket statement that we always talk about, how one side just broad brush strokes the other side to paint them as a dehumanizing figure. So then you don't have to think about them or have any empathy towards them, because if they're not human, they're just pieces of shit and you're better based on the comparison. And I think it's damn near the same exact thing as that. It's just a broad brushstroke. And I want to say, even though her words are way more like actionable versus what Biden's speech was that we talked about a couple episodes ago when he was talking about the MAGA Republicans, it's the same thing. And like me and Steve, actually, because I see him every day, we kind of talked about this a little bit and we dove into it, and like it helped me like articulate and navigate where my brain on this whole process is going in general. What she said is she's going based off of that one guy, Shannon Brandt, 41 years old, ran over an 18-year-old in North Dakota because it was following a political argument that he said, and he told 911 that he ran him over because he's a Republican and he was in fear for his life. He admitted to striking the pedestrian with his car because he had a political argument with the pedestrian and believed the pedestrian was calling people to come get him. So he just ran him over. Now, that is one crazy from the left. Both sides have a shit ton of crazies. And it's insane to me that when the left or the right, when one of their crazies does something, how fast they're quick to brush them off. And then the other side is to use them as a poster child for their whole
that's the thing. That's the whole point, right? It's never done in good faith, like, right? So like what Marjorie Taylor Green said was, yeah, there's truth in it. You know, it's a lot like the way we talk about the media. It's
just like what Biden says.
It's like,
some MAGA Republicans are extreme.
Right. It's lying by omission, right? So like, yes, it was this crazy Democrat that ran over Republicans. That actually happened. And that sucks. And it's dangerous, right? And it's not good. But the way Marjorie Taylor Green uses it as a reason for you to fear Democrats, right, is everything that you and I, even, Corey, in fact, multiple times on this show, have shit on Democrats for about, hey, everybody on the right,
basket of deplorables.
They're fascists. They're evil fascists, and they're going to take over the world. It's like using one or a handful of incidents to paint your political opponents as evil.
Well, this is how they all are.
Horrible. Because as murderers.
Right.
Like, don't. That's what makes me so frustrated about, like, when people talk about, you know, the left does this and this is why the left is so dangerous. And it's like, okay, yeah, I kind of agree with you. Like, they shouldn't do those things, and it does make them a little dangerous. But then they go and they do the same goddamn thing. And I don't think that conservatism has ever had a better chance of like really taking hold in this country as it does right now, because we talk about how the left is a little bit crazy, right? With the race ideology and the gender ideology, and everybody's like, I don't know how I feel about all that. But then the conservatives just take that and they shit all over it by employing the same tactics.
Yeah.
And
it's exactly this. Yeah, it's basically the same. Like when Biden comes out and talks about mega Republicans and calling them extremists. Now, and to his credit, he did try to differentiate Republicans from mega Republicans. But make no mistake, 80 million Americans voted for Donald Trump. And whether he has this concocted caricature in his brain of what a mega Republican is, 80 million Americans are essentially thinking they're talking about them.
100%.
Even if he's not.
Well,
you
no,
know, and then so Steve said to me,
it's not just, hold that thought. It's not just the Republicans on the other side that think Biden's talking about them. Dude, it's the people on the left.
Okay, so that's actually where I was getting to.
Conflate being a Republican with being a quote-unquote MAGA Republican, and it doesn't necessarily have to be the same thing.
And so that's what I was getting at with him. I said, it's divisive rhetoric, and it's no better than what she's doing, because in all reality, he's the president. She's just some crazy constituent. And they're both just speaking to their bases. And when Biden came out and said the things he did, and he was careful to try to differentiate the two, even though the people that heard it, and this is what I said, I was like, the people that heard it, that don't agree with that sentiment, think they're talking about him or them. And he goes, yeah, but that doesn't matter, because it doesn't matter what Biden says, it's going to piss them off. And so I was like, well, then that's more important. That means he's talking to his base. That means that he doesn't care what they think. He's trying to fearmonger to his base, which is exactly the same thing that Marjorie Taylor Green is doing in her speech. Mm-hmm. There is absolutely no different, because the tone and the wording is different. Doesn't make any sort of lick of difference when now the conversation isn't about America and trying to unite the country and get us on a path forward. It's about who's less divisive. Is that the America that we want to live in? Like, that's what our argument was. It's like, oh, but their tone. But at the end of the day, neither is better.
Yeah, the answer is neither is less or more divisive. And like I hate to harken back to the 60 Minutes piece with Scott Pelley and Joe Biden, but like Scott Pelley asked a decent question. The problem is didn't really follow up on it, and he just accepted a milquetoast answer when he was talking to Joe Biden, and he said something to the effect of, it used to be in Congress that the other side just had a bad idea. Now that person on the other side is a bad guy. Right?
Inhuman.
Yeah. And so Biden gave some sort of milquetoast explanation for it. And at the end of the day, like, I honestly don't think somebody like Joe Biden really understands the cultural implications of his presidency. And that's kind of terrifying in a way, but like, I'm also not going to worry about it too much, because of conversations that you and I have, that we have with our listeners, that so many other new media people have with their people. It's like, okay, Trump was a bad time. We got through it. Biden's a really bad time. Let's just kind of get through it. Like, but the actual changes need to be made, and they probably won't be made in the next election cycle or the election cycle after that. But the more and more we build this momentum, and the more and more people like you and me talk about like what Marjorie Taylor Green said was like at least irresponsible, and what Joe Biden said about quote unquote MAGA Republicans was at least irresponsible, and right. Both of them being at most dangerous. I hate using that word now because it's just so overused.
Right. And Marjorie Taylor Greene's rhetoric was definitely more extreme. We know she's a more of an extreme person than compared to Biden, but the rhetoric was still there.
Professional politics.
The message was still there. And if I had to like sit here and go, well, which one do you think is more extreme? Obviously, I'm going to say the doofus who's talking about family values that's getting a divorce. And and that's not to slate people leaving toxic relationships or anything like that at all. Like that, I feel like that does have to be said.
Oh, but who do you think the toxic one is in that relationship? I gotta believe it's Marge.
Oh, it's gotta be Marge.
Totally.
This guy comes home and spews this shit at home, and the guy's just trying to watch like baseball. He's just like, God damn it!
Braves just won the World Series last year. I'm trying to watch them repeat.
Right. I want to repeat, Marge. And so, if I had to choose between the two, it's clear that she's the crazy batshit one. But we're seeing the rhetoric on both sides, and just because someone can say it nicer, I could say that I could either, like, you know what I mean? Like, I could either look at you and call you stupid, or I can look at you and say you lack the cognitive ability to form a coherent thought.
You're saying the same thing.
Saying the same damn thing, one just sounds a little bit more pompous and a little bit nicer. But it's essentially the same thing. They're doing the broad brush stroke because one was a little bit more extreme doesn't make the other one better. Because even if Biden thinks he's talking about 800 people, then it doesn't matter because there's still 80 million people who think they're talking about him.
Who think that Biden's talking about them. You wanted to get to Michelle's comment last.
Yes. So Michelle's comment, Michelle brought up the idea of talking about the 3 proposals that are coming to Michigan on our ballot. And I love how Michigan does this. And I know other states do the ballot proposals too, but like Michigan, it always seems like our best legislation comes.
And let me just set this up by saying that, like, if you're an out-of-state listener, Corey and I are both from the Detroit area. I believe Michelle's from here as well. The reason why this topic might be important to you,
it sets a tone for the country.
And yeah, because Michigan is a very, very purple state. Honestly, I love that about living here. To be honest with you, I absolutely love how purple we are. It makes me so much more interested and so much more attentive to it. But do you want to start? You want to do these in order as far as these proposals? But yeah, this is.
I have a nice list broken down right here
for the country. Go ahead.
So I'm looking at. I'm on the SunTimesNews.com. It's from Chelsea, Michigan, and so we have 22-1, 22-2, and 22-3. And they're all 3 proposals that we're going to see on straight ballot initiatives that we get to vote on regardless of party affiliation. 22-1 is a proposal to amend the state constitution to require annual public financial disclosure reports by legislators and other state officers and change state legislator term limit to 12 years total in legislature. This proposed constitutional amendment would require members of legislature, governor, lieutenant governor, secretary of state, and attorney general to file annual public financial disclosure reports after 2023, including assets, liabilities, income sources, future employment agreements, gifts, travel reimbursements, and positions held in organizations except religious, social, and political organizations.
To be more specific, under gifts, according to Ballotopia, gifts from lobbyists.
Right.
Okay, that's huge.
Require legislator implement, but not limit or restrict reporting requirements. Replace current term limits for state representative and state senators with a 12-year term limit in any combination between House and Senate, except a person elected to Senate in 2022 may be elected the number of times allowed when that person becomes a candidate, which I fucking love. So I love this proposal. We just recently got rid of 2 senators, which, you know, they may have had good things and stuff like that, but I'm just tired of the old bad blood, the establishments, the people who are just basically a fixture in the room because they've just been there for so long. Because we just had Lennon and not Feinstein, Stabenow, right? Wait, do we still have Stabenow?
Yeah, but
This will make Stabenow gone.
Yeah.
This will keep fresh blood coming in with fresh ideas.
This is strictly for the state legislature.
Oh, no, you're right. This isn't
fucked it up, Corey. You fucked it up. This is just for the state legislature. But either way, you're right, because having to claim their assets. But here's the thing: I don't know if this is just the nihilist in me or the negative emotions that come to me, but like I see all this and I go, "This is all awesome," right? That the fact that these politicians have to make their assets public, essentially. The first thing I'm thinking of is like, when this gets signed into law, how are they going to get around this?
They'll do their best, but at least it makes it harder. I just want to see it to where we make it so hard where it's not worth it. State Proposal 22-2 is a proposal to amend the state constitution to add provisions regarding elections. This proposed constitutional amendment would require military or overseas ballots be counted if postmarked by Election Day. So I guess that means as long as they've got sent before Election Day, they can still be counted even after Election Day. Like if it gets lost in the mail or it takes time to get there, which I'm absolutely for. These guys are serving our country. They deserve a right to have their voice on whether or not they should be in a foreign land. Provide voter right to verify identity with photo ID or signed statement. Provide voter right to single application to vote absentee in all elections. Require state-funded absentee ballot drop boxes and postage for absentee applications and ballots. Provide that only election officials may conduct post-election audits. Require 9 days of early in-person voting. Allow donations and fund elections, which must be disclosed. And require canvass boards certify election results based only on official records of votes cast.
And the way I look at this proposal is
this is making voter access easier.
I don't know if you want to call me like a dirty, disgusting, horrible liberal hippie, but I think the easier it is for people to vote, the better.
Abso-fucking-lutely. Like, I don't understand why we only have 1 day. This is talking about 9 days. Like, some people just can't make it that day. It's called life.
Because there are ways for people to steal elections, Corey.
So my pushback on this, actually, because I do have a little bit of pushback on it. It's provide that only election officials may conduct post-election audits. I think that if someone's going to foot the bill to have a outsider audit the post-election after it's settled, just to like go through the fine details and see where we can shore up fraud, is always a good thing. I was saying this earlier to a guy at work, and I was like when our election went well, and just recently, as evidenced by the names trying to be put on the ballots for the Republicans, they found a bunch of faulty signatures based on forensic auditing of signatures. Those are good things. We're catching fraud. But that shows that fraud is still tried. Our governor recently just said that our election system is sound and secure and we don't need to do anything about it. And I think that's silly because there's always room for improvement in anything. That we should constantly be looking for any sort of weird, out of norm things happening. And depending on who's in charge and gets to choose who these certified elected officials are, there might be a personal sway or a push or like a narrative being pushed in that group that might not give us a full transparency.
I guess I get that, but it's like, when was this a problem? Before Donald Trump, right? Like,
it wasn't before but Trump. If it is,
like, both sides just accepted the election. They weren't necessarily happy about it. Like, do you think John McCain was happy to get absolutely jail sexed by Barack Obama in 2008?
No, not at all. But what I'm saying is when you have half of the country or half of the state in a purple state that is like, even if they're not like ready to go to the Capitol and try to kick in doors and like squatters' rights their way into like overthrowing a government. If half the state is still like, hey, we don't necessarily trust this, our institutions should be like, well, let's do everything to make it trustworthy to you.
I guess the problem is that like election officials are generally bipartisan, not meaning they're like independents, but
I'm not putting on a tinfoil hat doing a conspiracy, but I'm trying to, for the sake of the country, quell any sort of.
There's generally people from both sides, right, that are quote unquote election officials, right? And so I know you're not. I know you're kind of doing a devil's advocate thing, which is normally my role. So fuck you.
Sorry, bud. You want to jail sex me now?
But like, it was just never a problem before, and it's because like, yes, there is fraud in every single election,
but it's never been proven to sway an election.
I look at this as somebody exactly, and I look at this as somebody who not that long ago was like super into like my side winning. Like, I was a huge Obama person in 2008, like for reasons that I think most folks should understand if you're a thinking human being. Obviously my opinion since then has changed, but like back then I would never have thought to be like, oh my God, what can I do to make sure that Barack Obama gets extra votes? Like, how many people are out there actually doing this? Even if it's 100 people, which I think is a high number, how many illegal votes are you going to get through?
Right. No, and I get that. Like, it's voting in general is so decentralized based on the state down to the county that the fact of that it happening is very, very like rare, or not even. I don't even want to use the word rare. Is almost it's virtually non-existent because there's way too many hands in the pot. But just throw some people some bones. Like if what the idea of America is based on is a constitution and the institutions that enforce it. If people don't have trust in the institution, it doesn't matter if they're right or wrong. That we need to create a sort of trust.
I don't know. I guess I get that, but my pushback on that is when you have somebody like Donald Trump that can just use his personality to convince people. Like, let's just say
there's also got to be a sort of sway where we have the gumption to go, he's fucking crazy.
What I was going to say is, like, let's just pretend for a second that our elections were absolutely perfect. There was not a single fraudulent vote. Let's just, in an alternate universe, we know that's not true, but in an alternate universe, let's just pretend that were the case.
Okay.
You could still, like, Donald Trump would still come along with his cult of personality. Doesn't have to be Donald Trump. It could be somebody on the left. Somebody.
You're right. He said it before the election. He goes, if I lose, it's because they cheated.
Convince enough people that it was fraudulent, even if it was perfectly secure. And for anybody who may just be tuning in or whatever, and just hearing me say that, using Donald Trump as an example, there could easily be somebody as a cult of personality for the Democrats that could do the same thing. I'm just
like they did for Clinton. They said it was Russian.
Sure, yeah. The election was stolen, illegitimate election, illegitimate president, repeated.
We heard it from their side too. So let's try to nip this in the bud and quell both sides. Like, my pragmatic solution is you get a ballot number when you get your ballot. And at that point, it's a anonymous number of just your ballot. It doesn't, you get just that number that anybody could look up in a database. And it could be a random number. You could type in any random number. You would only know your number unless you told other people. You could, after the election is settled, you can go to a database, look up your ballot number and your district, and see if your anonymous ballot matches what you put.
See, I see more fraud happening there, though.
Because then someone going, oh, but I didn't do that.
Well, not just that, but it's like the whole online system thing is a lot easier to hack. So, like, let's say,
okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah, but I mean,
let's say I voted for Biden, but somebody hacks it and changes my vote to Trump, or vice versa.
I guess once the election is settled, the raw data should be as accessible as possible. Is that fair?
I guess.
I'm not interested in looking. I'm not going to go and comb through all of it. But if someone's interested enough, let them comb through all of it, and then they can see the real raw data, not what a narrative from a news source is telling them.
The wormhole you just sent Corey and I down right now.
Like said, like let's try to shore it up. Like, if there's got to be ways, we can make it better. And I think just pretending everything's fine.
I'm with you. Like, in a perfect world, that could happen. But here's the problem. It's like, who's shoring it up? Is it Democrats or is it Republicans? It's either way. Half the people aren't going to believe that it's shored up. You know what I'm saying? Like, even if it was perfectly shored up, there's going to be.
So that goes what I was saying. Like, after the post-election, maybe allow some third parties.
Michelle's watching. She gave us.
Laughed.
She gave us a few laugh emojis because she got talking. That's my girl. We love you, Michelle.
Yeah, but so that's what I'm saying. Like, it's like, I'm not, obviously I don't see the books, so I don't get to see exactly like the inner workings. And maybe I should. Maybe we should volunteer to run a voters thing just so we can get the inside look on what's going on. I just think that in anything, there's always room for improvement. You take the most prestigious athlete, there's something they can improve on. You know what I mean?
The only difference is with athletes, like, it's concrete. It's there. You see it. You see LeBron James get better at basketball.
So then how do we make it to where you can see it?
You convince the people of what we're trying to convince them of, that the fucking duopoly works for the same goddamn team. So we have less people going, oh, the Democrats shored up the election. That means it must not be shored up.
I guess what I'm looking at,
shored up the election, it must not be actually that shored up.
Right. So I guess what I'm looking at when I look at this, when I see the thing about no outside auditors or whatever, like, what's the actual wording? The actual wording is provide that only election officials may conduct post-election audits. What catches me on that is it reminds me of the police departments going, well, we investigated ourselves. We found no wrongdoing. And we know that's bullshit.
It's exactly right.
So you understand what you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like maybe there should be, because like we can't have a private company like Dominion run the election ballots with their electronic voting systems, and then once it's done, we aren't allowed to have a private company audit it when we're using a private company to do it.
Sounds like you don't have much faith in our elections, Corey.
I have plenty of faith in our elections. I know it's so decentralized. Like I don't, but my car, well, not necessarily mine because I ran through a puddle, but like, let's say like I'm really good at something, but just because I'm good at it doesn't mean that I could be better. There's constant ways you can improve efficiency on anything you do.
Derek Jeter, LeBron James,
I
Corey
know where
Walsh.
you-
Let's
You
get to
can put me on a pedestal with them. I won't.
let's get to Michigan's last proposal, which is probably that's the real big one, right?
Right.
Proposal
So,
3.
Proposal 22.3 is a proposal to amend the state constitution to establish new individual right and reproductive freedom, including right to make all decisions about pregnancy and abortion, allow state to regulate abortion in some cases, and forbid prosecution of individuals exercising established right. This proposed constitutional amendment would establish new individual right to reproductive freedom, including right to make and carry out all decisions about a pregnancy, such as prenatal care, childbirth, postpartum care, contraception, sterilization, abortion, miscarriage management, and infertility.
So let me start with this.
But let me finish, because here's the thing that's interesting
more.
about it. Yeah. It will allow state to regulate abortion after fetal viability, but not prohibit if medically needed to protect a patient's life or physical or mental health. Forbid state discrimination in enforcement of this right. Prohibit prosecution of an individual or a person helping a pregnant individual for exercising rights established by this amendment. And this will invalidate state laws conflicting with this amendment.
So here's what I'm going to start with. I will be voting yes on this proposal.
Yeah, cat's out of the bag. We're both voting yes.
Because here's the thing: like the first thing I noticed about this proposal is it's like the one proposal in Michigan where, it's like advertised on TV, and like I'm already looking at like the conservative spin of this just based on like TV ads, and it's like this is going to change the Constitution. It's going to
That's the point. It's an amendment.
Not the U.S. Constitution, but the Michigan Constitution. About it's so vague. It's gonna allow it's gonna allow for anybody to have an abortion at any time for any reason, and anybody can do one. It doesn't even have to be a medical doctor. And it's like, okay, yes, technically you're right, but it's like the same argument about abortion from a couple of years ago before Roe was overturned about like late-term abortions are technically illegal here, or technically legal here, and here. And it's like, yeah, the law says they're technically legal, but nobody's doing them, right? Like we all have an understanding of what like a rational abortion looks like.
Right.
Like,
and then
why
even to quell,
God damn it, Corey, let me finish. And that's why I have an issue with a gubernatorial candidate like Tudor Dixon, who just goes, no exceptions, no exceptions, no exceptions. And when conservatives come out and say things like abortion is not healthcare, and I look at that and I go, yeah, until it is, right? Like when you're looking at a mother who might die if she has this fucking baby, and I understand how rare it is, right? It's very, very rare, but it does happen. If it happens once out of a million pregnancies, that's one too many mothers that die or become seriously injured because of a pregnancy that could have been terminated to save her life. And I'm sorry, but like I'm for the life that currently exists, and I'm more than willing to have a discussion about like when does the heartbeat start, or when is it too late to have an abortion? I'm very, very willing to have those discussions. but to just be so all or nothing on it it's
just silly.
it's a fucking deal breaker for me.
Right. And then for the people who would actually say that stuff, Dan, they didn't read it because this also says allow state to regulate abortion after fetal viability. This amendment is literally a codified Roe v. Wade.
Mm-hmm.
That's literally what it is. And for people that sounds like political grandstanding when they say, well, it's vague, because we're still giving room to legislate things as we move along to where we can go, ooh, let's reel back on that. Oh, let's do better on that. Where new science showed up. This is backing this.
Yeah.
But while that happens, as we move on and this conversation happens, this sets in stone that until we figure out the nitty-gritty of the nuance of the conversation that you and I are talking about, women aren't going to be put in jail because they were raped and want to have an abortion.
Mm.
Because that's the 1931 law in Michigan right now.
That's the thing is like a Republican candidate for governor. Like, I don't think I personally, I don't think Tudor Dixon has a chance. I don't think she has a chance. And it's shitty because like, I'm not a huge fan of Governor Whitmer, but when I look at the, I think you mentioned this maybe 4 or 5 weeks ago, maybe even longer ago, like Michigan's got the number 5 GDP in the country or something like that. Top 5 GDP in the country, even through COVID. Like, sorry, but like, good job, Governor Whitmer. She's done a good job as far as fixing the roads like she promised she was going to do. Yeah, there's construction everywhere.
She did that. That's pretty intentional. All the construction at once right before midterms.
You can't. He's like, you can't drive 3 miles without running into construction. As somebody who drives for a living, I can tell you definitively the roads are definitely better, which is one of the things that she promised. I have an issue with her on trying to invoke prohibition for vaping. Like, I'm not a huge fan of her, but if like my choices are Governor Whitmer, who I could vote for in good conscience because I don't think she's a complete piece of shit. Now, obviously, we can have a long conversation about COVID and
nursing homes, Dana Nessel cover up. Yeah, no, absolutely.
We have a long conversation about that. But then I look at the Republican candidate that they put up in Tudor Dixon, where it's just like, yeah, nobody can ever have an abortion in this state. Like, I'm sorry. Like, it's a purple state, bitch. That's not going to fly. It's just not going to fly.
Yeah.
Period. You're not getting my vote.
Eric Riddle commented, and he goes, as a daily disc golfer, Natalie Ryan, a male to female transgender, just won 2 major women's PDGA tournaments this year, easily able to throw much further than her born as female competition. How do you feel about transgender women in female sports?
Oh, baby. This is my favorite.
I forget what episode it was. It's the one that I got absolutely plastered on talking about this because it was a topic that needed a lot of liquid courage. But we dive really deep into this, Eric, and I'm going to try to find that episode, and I'll message you. And then on top of that, let's go discing. I know Eric. I know him. So it's like, hey, let's go disking together.
We should probably get that. I think it's I think transgender women in female sports is I think at a minimum you have to admit there's a difference.
Yeah.
I think absolutely at a minimum. There's just like
anecdotal, biological, anthropological evidence all suggest that.
The way I said it was like there are all things we can't do, right? That we want to do. And like if you're a trans, like I believe transgender people are real. I don't have a problem admitting that. But to try and pretend like there is not a biological advantage to going through male puberty and competing in sports, absolutely burying your head in the sand. Absolutely burying your head in the sand. Because there just is.
It's a tough conversation if you have any sort of empathy for other people, because you know that saying that can hurt somebody's feelings. But telling me that I'm not going to be the next NFL star or, supermodel or the next big weightlifter or just being able to do a chin up because I have metal in my arm. It sucks. Those are things that I can't do.
Well, and like you and I both, I think, have an opinion on gender ideology. I think there's a serious and like, I would have to take more time to really consider how I want to talk about this topic.
Again,
As far as gender ideology goes, because I definitely have my opinions on it, some of which are probably remarkably unpopular amongst people on the left. But I think I have a pretty good sense of what I think on that, but maybe we'll talk about it another day. What I would say is that like when it comes to sports, like that's the big one. You just cannot deny the biological differences. If you want to talk about like culturally, do I have a problem calling a transgender woman who
no.
was
If
formerly
someone
a
feels
man?
like they're in a different body, I can't tell them to think
No, I
differently.
have no problem with that. But there is a difference, and it's not. It should be talked about. Yeah.
Right. And then it's such a weird sticking point for us because what is happening is you're seeing male to female people taking away the spotlight and scholarships and things like that and sponsorships from women who are trying just as hard as this person who has a biological advantage.
That's the argument
And
of it being kind of an anti-feminist movement. That's
right.
That's the whole that's the
Even
term.
that's like the only sticking point for me. I could give two shits about bathrooms. I think that's just an easy fix that we could just put in just doors with just enclosed areas. You know, if a guy is a girl, the girls' bathrooms only have stalls.
Yeah.
You're not going to see his downstairs mix up. And if a girl is going into a guy's bathroom and he looks like a guy, the guys aren't even going to look twice. They're going to see her go in the stall and they go, oh, that guy's taking a shit. Hey, make sure you wipe, and just shit like that. The military, there's a standard, regardless if you're a man or a woman, that if you're able to be okay at a certain level of efficiency and like performance for the military, doesn't matter if you're a guy or girl, you hit that standard, you get the join. I think that if someone is transgender, straight, gay, male or female, if they're willing to go onto the front lines and take a bullet for me and my son and my wife, then by all means, do it. I don't think that what your orientation or what you're comparing yourself to that day or that year or that month of your life makes a fucking difference. That's a drink.
Yep. Corey, we're already an hour in.
We covered all of the
listener picks.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much what we had. One thing I wanted to cover was Abigail Spamberger's
Do I have time to pee?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and read this.
Can you cover this for 2 minutes while I take a leak? Man.
So we're going back and forth right now on the stock ban being in the House and the Senate, and they're going back and forth pretending to care about trying to ban stocks so that way people in the House can't make a bunch of money on insider trading. Oh, damn it. I was trying to make me on the main screen. I'm sorry, guys. We're trying to make it to where people in the House and the Senate are trying to pass bills to make it to where people who are serving aren't allowed to do insider trading and get money off of stocks. But Abigail Spanberger, who's a Democrat, recently came out after one of the bills just failed again. And she came out with this statement on it. And it says, Spanberger's statement on House leadership's refusal to ban members of Congress from trading individual stocks. So another bill failed to try to make it so that our representatives have more accountability. And it was almost intentional. They made it to where it was such a non-starter that people had no choice but to turn it down. And so her response is this. Our job as elected officials is to serve the people, not ourselves. That's why I've been proud to lead the charge on legislation to ban members of Congress and their immediate families from trading individual stocks. Not only because it's the right thing to do, but because the Virginians I represent overwhelmingly support it and want us to get this done. Since the early days of the pandemic, I've worked with lawmakers from both parties and across the ideological spectrum to earn their support for my bipartisan bill, the Trust in Congress Act, to require individual stock holdings to be divested or placed in a qualified blind trust while in office. Our common sense proposal demonstrated that many Democrats and Republicans alike take this issue seriously and are listening to the voices of the people. For months, momentum grew when both the House and Senate to finally take a step towards prohibiting members of Congress from day-to-day trading while on the job. We saw remarkable progress towards rectifying glaring examples of conflicts of interest And after the first signaling her opposition to these reforms, the Speaker purportedly reversed her position. However, our bipartisan reform coalition was then subjected to a repeatedly delay tactics, hand-waving gestures, and blatant instances of Lucy pulling the football. This moment marks a failure of House leadership, and is yet another example of why I believe that the Democratic Party needs new leaders in the House of Capitol Hill, as I have long made known. Rather than bring members of Congress together who are passionate about this issue, leadership chose to ignore these voices, push them aside, and look for new ways they could string the media and the public along, and evade public criticism. As part of their diversionary tactics, the House Administration Committee was tasked with creating a new piece of legislation, and they ultimately introduced a kitchen sink package they knew would immediately crash upon arrival, with only days remaining before the end of the legislation session and no time to fix it. It's apparent that House leadership does not have its heart in this effort, because the package released earlier this week was designed to fail. It was written to create confusion surrounding reform efforts and complicate a straightforward reform priority, banning members of Congress from buying and selling individual stocks, all while creating the appearance that House leadership wanted to take action. In the months ahead, I will be dogged in my efforts to ban members of Congress from using the privilege of their position to profit. I look forward to working with both my Democratic and Republican colleagues to get these reforms done. So she's pissed. She's pissed. And it's the same thing we were talking about. What Democrats and Republicans do, they string people along. We saw it with Roe v. Wade. We saw it with the healthcare bill. We've been seeing it now with the Stock Act. We've seen them do it with like any sort of gun reforms, whether you're for it or against it. It's never going to fucking change because it's a hot button issue that gets people to the polls, and they talk about it on purpose just to get people there, just like the Stock Act. Now all of these Democrats and Republicans can run back home and still do their trades to make their millions, but then go, oh, geez, guys, you know, we tried really hard, but it's those other people that just said no. But here's Abigail Spanberger straight up calling out her own fucking party and the leadership in the House and Pelosi. And she has been talking about Pelosi needing to step down for a while, and she's out for blood, and I love it.
So is that going to be our intro into why we've left the two-party system?
Okay, yeah, that's right. So we do have to do that. So there was a Facebook group that we saw.
Make sure you use that, what you just said.
You know, I could, yeah, we could throw, I'll try to chop it up and stuff like
You're
that.
You're going to be responsible for editing this. So
yeah, I'll try to make it. It's going to end up being a goddamn 15-minute video. So Dan.
Yeah.
Let's start the fragment sesh, or let's start the segment fresh. Why did you leave the two-party system?
Because it didn't really take that much for me to realize that Democrats and Republicans work for the same people.
That they constantly work their asses off to keep the same bird afloat with the same two wings and not let anyone else into the game.
I don't think it's really difficult to see that they work for the exact same people. And
two wings of the same bird.
Yeah, I mean, how do you, so let me ask you, Corey, how do you know that? How do you know that? Because I know you agree with me. How do you know they work for the same people?
Well, so I don't know if this is going to make the little segment when I make this video, but because of the same exact fact that things like the Stock Act get strung along by both parties to pander to their constituency, but then they make the bill so complicated that it fails, and then they can just go, oh, darn, you know, we sure tried. Like just another example is Roe v. Wade, where they did that for 70 years. And they just 50 years. And they just coddled it along. And then when it finally got overturned in the court, they went, oh, darn, we sure tried. When both parties for 50 fucking years both said that they were going to try to fight it and did nothing about it.
Not to mention that pretty much everybody that works in federal government gets job offers prior to leaving office. They get job offers to work for, I don't know, pick your corporation, whether it's pharmaceuticals, whether it's the military industrial complex with Lockheed Martin or Raytheon or whomever. And then you wonder, why are we trying to force people to take vaccines? Gee, I don't know. Why are we sending American taxpayer dollars to send weapons to Ukraine for a war that we're not involved in? Gee, I don't know. Why has that been an issue with essentially every bullshit proxy war that we've been involved in since World War II? Gee, I don't know. So there's
they keep
an
giving
utter
us
duopoly.
two
Yeah.
polished candidates, both essentially the same thing. One has an R next to the name, one has a D. And the rich gets richer, the middle class gets smaller, and we lose our personal freedoms time and time again. It doesn't matter who's in charge. And if I could sum up like what we're saying right here, I think I can put this pretty clear. And it's the liberals on the left have abandoned civil liberties, and the right has abandoned free markets and fiscal responsibility. And they've replaced that with just personal interests, and we see it time and time again.
And then what do they do?
And then they vilify the other side and just
well, there's that. But the more important thing is they make you and me point the finger at each other. They make me point the finger at my neighbor because he didn't get vaccinated.
Yep.
Right. They make you point the finger at your neighbor because he thinks that, I don't know, Social Security is maybe a good thing. Right. Like it's always this push to, you guys fight with each other so that we can continue to sit here in our little group and do what we do.
Just stock up our cash.
And the thing that infuriates me so much about it is I just don't think it's that hard to see. If you just open your eyes a little bit.
Step back, emotionally disconnect yourself from all of the bullshit, and you see it. And it's clear as day. And you feel better. And you get to just laugh at them. And you can just spend so much more time being pragmatic and actually trying to work on things versus trying to defend some party and attack some party that you either are for or against.
Well, and grouping people together too, Corey, right? So it's like,
just broad brushstrokes.
Just because you're a conservative doesn't necessarily mean you have to be a Republican. Just because you're a liberal doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be a Democrat. Just because you're a leftist doesn't mean you're a liberal and doesn't mean you're a Democrat. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like liberal values or conservative values, which I think are both legitimate values to have.
Right.
They don't have to be tied.
You need that combative ideology conversation going on in your head and with other people to find faults in arguments and make arguments better. And one thing that I think really finally made me realize that the two-party system was bullshit, that when in 2016 I voted third party, all of my Democratic friends were saying, it's you and your people's fault that Trump got elected. And I was like looking around and going, oh, sorry, pick a better candidate. And then in 2020 came along, all of my Republican friends said, it's you and your people's fault that Biden got elected. And I look around and I'm like, oh, okay, pick a better candidate. And it's just when you see it, it's just a fucking sham.
And Grande says, I don't know why he said centrist exclamation point. And like,
I think it's called like some of our nuanced conversations do end up kind of in a centrist.
Yeah, but
needle point.
But the way I would put it is, and Grande, I appreciate all the comments here. Everything else you've said is, he said red plus blue, purple, fuck them, a multitude of things. We appreciate the comments, but I wouldn't.
Stuff we all agree with. I also agree with
I don't like
Vegan's post
term,
real quick. Conservative number one, so obviously I'm gonna have to share that one. Thank you, Vegan.
I don't like using the term centrist as much as I like using the term pluralist, right? Like you don't. It's like when we talk about media, right? Like what's the biggest issue with legacy media? It's not that
lying by omission,
but it's lying by omission. But but people say they're skewed, they're biased, right? It's not that they're biased that's the issue. Like when you listen,
they pretend NPR, they're not.
Exactly, that's exactly right. That's why I have so much more respect for like a place like the Daily Wire, even as being a traditional liberal or even leftist, as some people might say. I have more respect for Ben Shapiro than I do for CNN.
Rachel Maddow.
Because for Rachel Maddow. Because why? Because Ben Shapiro's honest. Ben Shapiro is telling me exactly who he is, exactly what he believes, and he's not pretending to be like in the middle.
Right. I know who he is, so I know I can like say, well, I don't agree with anything he says, but he doesn't pretend to be something else.
Exactly. I have so much more respect for that.
Just like a Jimmy Dore.
being biased isn't the problem. It's being biased and being honest about it. That's what people appreciate. And that's what makes me more willing to listen to the Daily Wire and even NPR to a degree. Like, people might say that they're super left or whatever, and they are, but I don't feel like NPR lies about it. Maybe I'm
They're pretty
crazy
open
here.
about it. They try to say that they're middle ground, but you can hear it in the narrative. You know, you can hear it like when you like we should do
Like, even places like the Young Turks, like they try to act like they're we're just in the middle, and we're just right, and we're the mouthpiece of Americans. And it's like, I don't feel like places like the Daily Wire or PragerU on the right, I don't feel like they do that. They admit they're conservatives. Just admit what you are, and that way I can consume your content and know where you're coming from.
Fox News calling themselves fair and balanced. Get the fuck out of here.
Fucking bullshit. I can go to the other side and go, okay, who's somebody on the left that I can go, okay, they admit they're on the left, and this is what they think. And
I want them to say it so I know what a leftist opinion is.
100%.
And I want the right people to say it because I want to know what a right opinion is.
And you can listen to both and go and know exactly.
And then you form your own opinion?
Wow.
How dare you?
What an amazing concept. So what are
Grande just said the YTs are owned by who? Yeah, they just.
I know the answer.
I know that they're funded by some big. I think it's almost to the point where it's like BlackRock or something like that.
Yes,
but it's like it's some fucking super ridiculous.
Grande will probably tell us. I know the answer to this. It's just not coming to me at the present. But yeah, it's just like, admit what you are, pretty much. And those are the reasons why we left the two-party system, right? Because it's created this unbelievable binary where it's like, if you believe that everybody should be allowed to own guns, then that also means you're a fascist and you hate black people, right? Or if you're somebody who believes that
pro-life,
if you're somebody who's pro-choice, then that automatically.
I mean, that's what I meant. Sorry, pro-choice. Yeah.
If you're somebody who's pro-choice, and that automatically believes you're a socialist and you want to take money out of my pocket to give to other people, and it's like
trying to seize my means of production.
When in reality, you can absolutely be pro-choice and pro-Second Amendment and still be a reasonable human being.
Yeah, what did I say in the show prep the other day? Like I'm civilly libertarian, but I'm fiscally conservative. But then I lean left in the sake that like this is a class war issue, not a race issue. And the working class should be able to work 40 hours a week without having to rely on government for anything. But there are people who slip through the cracks. And as I see my fellow Americans struggling, I want to do everything I can to help them.
Corey, we didn't get to everything, but do you want to do which one do you want to do? We have 4 topics that we can do.
So,
do you want to do the Loretta Lynn thing, or do you want to do?
So let me answer that real quick. Because so the energy extremism is a sort of helping the discussion, and then nuclear war. The nuclear war one we can talk about next week as long as we're not nuked.
Hey, as long as there's no nukes sent out, we can talk about that.
So I think it's pretty clear which one I want to talk about.
Off of YouTube. And walk through this because you're playing a copyrighted song.
I know. You're right. So, my girl,
your girl,
Loretta Lynn, died recently. And she, so this part right here.
We're going to get booted off YouTube.
But I'm going to stop it there because I don't want to keep it going dead to end it. Granted, she was 90 years old, so it's not like a super shock. But we're talking about a woman who was writing songs in the 70s that were considered so controversial that they were banned on the radio, and they were banned by conservatives. Mm-hmm. And the song is literally about just fucking birth control. And this poor girl, I'm not even gonna say poor because it still actually like launched her career. But like the most controversial thing in this song probably is this incubator is overused because you've kept it filled. The feeling good comes easy now since I've got the pill. So in this song, she's talking about banging her husband in a civil union of a marriage, but because of the fact that it's not for procreation and now she can live her life a little bit more free because she's able to regulate her periods, banned. Don't put that shit on my radio. And so it just got me thinking that, like, granted, like, this is a woman who is a country music fixture, a real superstar, dynamo. She was one of the most important people that helped move the country music scene along, especially for women. Because around this same time, people are writing songs that were like way more controversial. We're talking the 70s when outlaw country was around, when we're talking about David Allan Coe, we're talking about Hank Jr. and Merle Haggard, talking about getting blasted and being rambling men running around and banging women, and all that shit was fine on the radio. But when she sings about this, of having some sort of like personal freedom, it was banned because it was uncouth. And this just goes into the whole conversation of like censorship, that right now the left is the side that's trying to censor people. It was the right then, and it goes back and forth. The right tried to ban Eminem for making music. Two Live Crew came out with a song called "Banned in the USA."
Well, that's like, and that's the whole point of this. It's like, let's have a real discussion about censorship, because it's so interesting that like the political side that has the power
is always the one that's trying to censor the other side. Goes
for the censorship, but the other side bitches about the fact that the other side is censoring. So it's like, can we maybe come to the consensus that it's not the censorship, and it's one issue that I have with the right at this particular time, like this whole woke censorship thing, which I agree is bullshit. But can we also admit that if you were in power, you would be censoring too? Like the whole banned books thing, right? It's like the only reason you have an issue with censorship right now is because your side isn't deciding what's censored.
Yeah.
Each side does this.
No, you're right. And like, yeah. And so what pisses me off about censorship?
Go ahead.
Yeah. It's the thing that makes me mad about censorship is it always seems like it's just the path of the least resistance. It's just out of convenience. People don't want to hear what people have to say, so they just say, tell them to shut up. You hear people all the time, like, I just wish that guy would just shut up. Boy, that person just needs to go away. But we just need to just tell them, just take their microphone away. And it's just like, why? Like, I want to hear this so I can articulate a better argument against it.
Yeah,
but that just takes more work.
It even goes to like the sort of the right wing social media apps that have popped up, right? This whole like Truth Social is a great example. Like, oh, we're the app of not censoring. Just make sure that you don't shit on
Donald Trump.
Don't shit on Donald Trump, and don't shit on any of the people that created the app. And it's like, you're already censoring people,
right?
And then
the left shits on it, and then the Occupy Democrats comes out with their own app called Tribal, doing the same exact fucking thing. And they're like, free speech, but don't be a bigot. And it's like, okay, well, that's a very I'll see you, Grande. Make sure you subscribe. Follow our
Glendale's Skull. Is that what I'm reading? Do we read that?
Glendale's Skull.
Whatever.
Since we're wrapping up, let me read the tagline real quick. Libservative Podcast is found on all social media and podcast platforms. Our website is podpage.com/libservative. We can be found at Libservative on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Instagram and Twitter is at LibservativePod. You can find our transcripts at libservativepodcast.wordpress.com. Our TikTok videos can be found at Libservative Podcast. And you can reach out directly at libservativepod@gmail.com. Just subscribe today. And if you really enjoy the show, make sure you give us a 5-star review. It helps other people find the show, and tell a friend.
And we apologize for pronouncing your name wrong the entire time. These Twitch people and their names, it's really difficult to read them.
I love them.
And Eric says he'll be happy to volunteer if you ever run for any type of office. And I sit there and I go, well, what about me? But there's no. And here's the thing: I'm not even offended by it because nobody will vote for me.
I'll just run it as Corey's beard. You can trust a guy with a beard. Can't see my face.
You're a little bit more. I think you're a little bit more consumable than myself. So. It is what it is. I don't know why.
You smell like shit because you're sticking your hand in garbage disposal pipes.
100%. There's a bunch of shit we didn't get to, but I'm so happy we did the whatchamacallit, the thing.
Yeah,
my
so we're gonna have to
listeners-
keep this
I'm
going,
drunk.
and
What
maybe
do you want?
not make the whole episode about the listener picks, but we'll definitely have to make it a weekly thing where we find one or two and talk about it.
Yeah, I think the listener picks is something that maybe we'll do once a month, maybe once you folks tell your friends about the show and how much you love it, and we're able to do a sort of paid subscription deal. Maybe we'll do it there. I don't know. But the listener picks was
It's
definitely
something new we started this week.
absolutely just kind of came out of our asses. We loved it though. We appreciate all the feedback and it got us talking. Michelle got us talking for like 30 minutes or more about whatever her question was about the Michigan proposals.
Yeah, she's a super fan, that's for sure. Yeah, Eric, absolutely. Subscribe. Everyone subscribe. We do this every Thursday. We're doing it on Wednesday today, but we typically do it every Thursday. And then our new episodes, which is basically the live stream. If you miss the live stream, it's the podcast. It comes out every weekend.
Also, I'm going to be on a plane. That's why we're doing this on a Wednesday. I'm going to be on a plane tomorrow night, landing in Aspen for
I'm getting drunk on a plane.
Oh, I'll definitely be getting drunk on a plane. Landing in Aspen for a friend's wedding over the weekend. So Corey will be doing all of the editing and posting. So if it sounds like shit, it's his fault because that's normally my job.
No, the last one I edited did sound like shit because the mic we were using didn't work. I sounded great, so I wasn't that upset. But
Steve the Serb did not sound so good.
He hasn't been back since.
Anyway, tell the people where they can find us, Corey Walsh. Oh, you did? Fuck. I had too many beers.
You swore too much.
Also, I've inhaled a lot of feces from the inside of my own plumbing. So.
I love how you keep saying it's shit, but it's your garbage disposal, which is eluding the audience that you're just shitting in your sink.
Dude, trust me, when you run an auger far enough down,
it all goes down the same pipe. Yeah, I get it.
Definitely get to the shit, and it's all over my kitchen, and it smells, and I hate it. And anyway, are we done?
I think we're done, Dan.
All right,
clean up that shit.
This has been Conservative. He's been Corey Walsh.
He has been Dan Griffin,
and we are out of here.